Gentlemen of the league, it is time once again for your weekly dose of the power rankings. The source of pride in this league, the source of prestige, it's coming at you. Where will your team be ranked this week? Only one way to find out. Well, I guess that's not true. You could ask around the league, but that's no fun. Okay, you want to watch the rankings, you want to get the juice, you want to get the analysis, you want to get the roasts, all that good stuff. It's right here, and it's coming your way next. No bonus video this week because I'm going to be pretty busy this week, and this stuff takes a long time. It takes a lot longer than you guys probably know. I got to do the editing. I got to do the, iMovie shit and then upload it to YouTube. It's a process. Okay, but we're getting started bright and early this week. It's Tuesday morning. I'm ready to get after it. A lot of low-scoring games this week in fantasy, so not a whole lot of teams really blew it out of the water, but we got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. You know where we're always going to start the rankings. The dumpster team of the week is coming out your way right now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the league, we are here at the dumpster, and you know what time it is. Who is going to get thrown in with all that stinky garbage? Well, guess what, folks? We have got a surprise for you this week. Coming in at number 14 in the power rankings, we have Steph McCarty's tooth gap. Lester, what? How could this happen? Well, unfortunately, Lester, I had to put on my official's cap and assess you a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for your team name this week. Now, okay, let's take a look at this situation that we have here. You're playing Nibs. You go after him. You change your team name, okay? You call out his ex, okay? Yeah, that's basically a low blow right there. Okay? But you still could have gotten away with it. You know how you get away with that move? You win. You win your game, and you show him, okay? You're playing the number one team, and guess what? He lets you off the hook. Terrible week, mid-matchup injury, Nibs team falling well below expectations. And what do? You come out with one of the most limp dick fantasy performances of the entire week. You fucked up your defense. You fucked up your flex. Look at all those flies buzzing around in there. I don't know if you could see them. You're the flies, Lester. You're the flies. You fucked it all up. Yes, you are not technically the worst team in the league, but due to circumstances, I had to banish you into the dumpster this week. You're going to call people out, back that shit up with W's, or don't do it at all. All right, folks, moving on. Number 13 coming right at you.
Coming in at number 13, we have the Path of the Righteous Man. This is no surprise after you obviously were not in the dumpster for once this week. You obviously would have been if I had not had to assess Lester with that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty this week. You would have definitely been right down there in the dumpster. You'll probably be back next week. Let's be real. When you look at this roster, there's not a lot of hope. One thing that I can say for you is that you have the opportunity to make some history, my friend. With Trevor Lawrence on your bench, you have the opportunity to become the first person in league history to consistently start a Jacksonville Jaguars QB in our league. I mean, that's not exactly the history you want to be making, but the other history you're making is just the futility of your team. You haven't even gotten to 90 points yet. I don't even think you've gotten close to 90 points yet. You're last in the scoring rankings. By all rights, you're the worst team. As if I couldn't rub it in enough, I told you that drafting Jerry Jeudy over Courtland Sutton was a huge mistake. Jeudy is slowly fading away from relevance completely, almost to the point where, you might question even dropping this guy who has combined for a grand total of 4.4 points in the past 2 weeks. Not good at all. Jeudy stinks. The one common theme that I see on your team is every single player that you have basically is in a struggling, underperforming offense. You've got Saints players, you got Cowboys, you've got Niners, you've got Cardinals, you got Broncos, all these terrible offenses. So really, you had a big miss in the draft at basically every position, and that's why you're down here, Pablo. Basically, at this point, I'm already ready to just say better luck next year. All right, with that being said, we're going to be moving on. All Seahawks fans' favorite number 12, right here. Coming in at number 12, we have Hannah Milstead Shot Me Down, Sean Bates. Sean, with a team name like that, it sounds like you need to work on your game a little bit. Come on, you should have a lot of confidence. You're tall, you have a job, you are a person, a male with, I assume, the correct male genitalia, so you should be in a good position, Sean. Just got to get that confidence level up. One thing that's not going to help your confidence out a lot is your fantasy football performance this week. That may be the source of your problems right there. You're insecure about your fantasy team. You're insecure about the fact that Gabe Davis could have had that touchdown pass that he dropped against the Dolphins. Would have helped your team, certainly. Would have certainly helped the Bills, who came up just a bit short. That was one of the big reasons why. A lot of just question marks on your team. When you look at it, Kyler Murray has been super up and down, fluctuating a lot these last couple of weeks. Austin Eckler kind of hasn't been there. I really liked that pick when you made it. It was one of the reasons I thought your team was going to be good. He has yet to really establish himself and put up an elite week. We had a couple good weeks in there, but you're starting to get to the point where you're running out of time, okay? You're waiting on D-Hop. You're trying to stack wins here at the beginning of the season. It didn't happen for you this week. You were never in contention to win your matchup against Gabo. When you look at the scoring rankings, you are down at 11 out of 14. That is not good, Sean. I need to start seeing some more scoring. I still believe that this team could make a comeback, but hey, this is a results-based business, and I can only give you so much leash. I tried to give you leash last week. It just didn't work out for you, and you took a fat one this week. Sean, get your confidence up. This Hannah chick, okay, she doesn't know what she's missing. I obviously don't know the story about this team name, but whoever she is, fuck her. Get back out on the game, and you got this, man. I know you have it in you. All right. With that being said, we are moving on. It is the 11th team in the power rankings right now. Gentlemen, the number 11 team in our power rankings. The fall for this team has been very, very swift. It is Character Concerns FC. Ajit, this is what I was talking about when I evaluated your team. You are a big swing type of team. The floor here, what we've seen in the past couple weeks, the floor on this team is very real. Now, I will say this. You were a little unfortunate that David Montgomery got injured during this matchup. But what we're starting to see is potential roster concerns, FC, more than anything else. With Monty potentially being out, you're down basically to ETN and Rex Burkhead, two guys who have not looked good at all this season. ETN is kind of the odd man out in a Jacksonville offense right now that is completely cooking. Other concerns for your team, Kirk Cousins last couple weeks hasn't looked good. Hawkinson yet to break out. He did have a decent game. Didn't get into double digits, though. Just a lot of concerning things. T. Higgins outperformed Jamar Chase this week. I think your team is going to have better weeks ahead, but this team's floor is dangerously low, and you are going to continue to have bad weeks like this sprinkled throughout your season. One big positive, though. My prediction about Chris Olave seems to be coming true. He is getting fed the football by Jameis Winston. He is the only guy that's looking halfway decent in a Saints offense that has dramatically underperformed this season. Looking at all of those factors, Ajit, I had to put you down there. This is the second week in a row that your team has been either at the bottom or very near the bottom in scoring for the week. So, unfortunately, I got to do what I got to do. It's a result-based business. You want to prove me wrong, you got to get the results. We had a couple teams last week prove me wrong. When you look at the scoring rankings, you are at number 10 out of 14. That is pretty brutal. Now looking good, and it's been trending downward ever since your week 1 explosion. So, we'll see. With that being said, it's time to get into the top 10 coming at you right now. Gentlemen, coming in at number 10, we have Once Upon a Time. Cam, I find myself consistently disagreeing with your team names. You got to come up with something better than that, in my opinion. I know you had set a high standard for yourself, coming up with a new pun basically every week. That one wasn't good, and I think it cast a bad shadow over your team because you, if I was to create a stinking pile of doo-doo award for fantasy football, you certainly would have received that this week. A performance that has been unprecedented this season. No team had failed to even break 70 before you came up with a 57.7 point performance this week, Cam. Just a litany of issues with your team. I want to start at your tight end spot, okay? Not trying to sound gay there, but moving on. You play Juwan Johnson, okay? Cam, we all know you know a lot about football. You don't need to prove that you know a lot about football by putting random nobodies in your tight end spot. You don't need to do that. We all believe that you know a lot about football. I know you're trying to replace Dalton Schultz, but come on, Juwan Johnson gives you a fat ass goose egg. I mean, I just don't know what you're thinking. I mean, maybe you just like guys named Johnson to pair with Deontay Johnson. Maybe you just like Johnson in general. If you do, hey, that's none of my business, man. More power to you. More power to you. But what's not looking powerful is your team. You need to come up with a plan quick. You're playing Nibs next week. That's not going to be easy. The layup wins that you got first 2 weeks of the season, that's over now. We've got scoring coming your way next. I was able to take you down. Nibs is probably going to be able to do the same unless something changes, man. We're looking at your scoring ranking. You're down at 13th out of 14 now. I could have put you lower based on that stat. Now, I'm not going to because it's an outlier. You have one particularly shitty week. But you got to step up your game, man. Obviously, Schultz is going to be coming back. There wasn't a lot of hope on your bench for a massive amount of improvement to next week. So, got to figure this shit out, Cam. I know you can. You've proven that you have an acumen for this fantasy football thing in the past. You got to pull out some of your old magic or things are going to get out of hand with performances like this. All right, with all that being said, folks, we're getting inside the top 10. Number 9 coming right at you. Gentlemen, at number 9, we have the Best Team Revenge Tour. The first win of the Revenge Tour, it comes against Cam. I know a lot of you guys were relying on me. You were telling me, hey, you can't give Cam another layup. You can't give him another freebie. And I listened. I heeded your call. I made the ballsy decision to put Dameon Pierce in the lineup. I had a great feeling about him, and it paid off, baby. Woo! Feels great. Excuse me. Sorry, I lost control a little bit there. Getting back to business. Okay, a lot of promising signs for my team. It finally happened. We get 2 good running back performances. We get Kyle Pitts. Finally, the Falcons are realizing that in order to have success on offense, you have to use your best offensive player. And Kyle Pitts, as good as Cordero Patterson is, and as good as Drake London has looked, Kyle Pitts is still their best player on offense. Just looking at him and watching him play, it's clear that that's the case. Juju, I was close to benching him, but then he got a couple of garbage time catches on the key drive. I like that. Niners D has been solid. T. Higgins has outscored Jamar Chase now couple times. After his week 1 where he gets hurt in the middle of the matchup, he has looked great. The most encouraging thing about this win, though, my 2 lowest scorers relatively, Justin Jefferson and Justin Herbert, the Justin twins. If I can put up a decent score without those guys are not going to get shitty weeks every single week. I think my team may be turning a corner here, folks. Stay tuned. I'm always trying to be an optimist over here, trying to get some kind of momentum going with my team. But hey, the number one thing this week, I got that dumpster farther and farther away. I can't even smell it anymore. We've got a couple guys in the dumpster zone, but that's not me anymore. I'm clear of that for at least one more week. That feels good. Now, moving on, we have number 8 coming your way next. Gentlemen of the league, coming in at number 8, fittingly, we have Super 8, Mr. Joseph. Joseph, it's been a rough year for you. You have gotten ass blasted every week. Teams are scoring all over the place against you. A lot of people will say something to the effect of, well, he's 0-3. How could he be only at number 8 in the power rankings. Well, if this was based on record, it would be called the standings, not the rankings. There's still a lot to like about this roster. Scoring is happening with this roster. It just hasn't translated into wins yet. Now, of course, what I will say is with an 0-3 start, the chances of you making the playoffs are pretty slim. Not very good. Joseph, you fell into a trap this week here with Chargers D against the Jaguars. Now, a couple of years ago, this is a great play. You got the Jacksonville offense. Those guys are awful, right? Well, unfortunately, the world changes. Okay? Being fat is a good thing now, and the Jacksonville offense is no longer a shit-covered fuckfest. Okay? So things are changing now in the year 2022 that we honestly thought would never change. The Jacksonville offense looks great, and you got blasted with a -3 by your defense. You took a negative there, and with a couple of other guys, Allen Robinson's roller coaster season continues. It undoes a lot of good stuff. Travis Kelce drops a touchdown. We almost never see him do that. It undoes a lot of good stuff. Kelce scored pretty well, though. Mahomes would have benefited from that as well. He kind of got double doinked there with that touchdown drop. Garrett Wilson followed up his breakout game with a very solid performance. Still a lot to like about this roster. 89 points is your lowest score, but that's not terrible. It's not a complete and utter disaster. And if Chargers defense just has a regular defensive performance of 5 or 6, you're right back up there in the 100 range. So all hope is not lost, but if teams continue to drop 115 to 120 on your face every week, it's going to be really tough for you to win. I know how that feels. You're kind of turning into me last year. Maybe you will go into next year looking to go on a revenge tour of your own. We will see. That being said, we are moving on into the upper half of the league. We are coming in with number 7 right now. All right, folks. Coming in at number 7, we have Double D Cup, Jake Smith, not moving anywhere from last week. Jake, it's a little bit rough. You're 1-2 right now. We'll say you're probably the best 1-2 team when you look at everything. Your team is solid, and you got knocked off this week because you ran into a buzzsaw with Mr. Morgan Crosby himself and got crushed. But it wasn't a bad week for your team, and there's positives. Saquon Barkley may not be the best player in fantasy, but he's probably the most fun player to watch in fantasy. Great runs, great plays last night, so explosive. That touchdown run against Dallas was very, very special. You can tell you got a special guy there. Burrow had his first big week of the season. Cooper Kupp did well, didn't have an amazing elite game, but he had a very solid game. McLaurin still looks good. The issue with this team, and it's glaringly obvious when you look at it, is that you have, in 3 games, a grand total of 4.7 points from your flex. You have not even broken 5 points in the entire season from your flex spot. That is just absolutely brutal when you think about it. I mean, your team is flexing like a starving infant would. I mean, this is just awful, Jake. And the problem is that with Godwin injured still, you have no option to replace that flex that's going to give you a lot better results. So until Godwin comes back, your team is going to be scuffling along with an albatross attached to you at that flex spot. Other than that, though, I like most of what your roster is at. I think you have a lot of success going forward. That's why you're up here at the 7 spot despite your 1-2 record. Things are going to get better, Jake. I believe that they will, and I think that Dobbins will eventually come around as well and have some good weeks for you. With that being said, we are moving on inside of the top half. It's going to be number 6 right now. Folks, moving on to the number 6 team. Starting to get down to the nitty-gritty. We have Big Beat Manifesto. Now, I know that you didn't have a great week this week, but I'm looking at your scoring ranking. You're top 5 in the league in scoring. So you got to get some props for that. You're 2-1. You got your layup against Pablo out of the way. Nice and easy. Couple things. One, Joe Mixon, concern level. Don't know where that is with you. I'm not super concerned, but it is something to look at. He has gone downhill these last 2 weeks. He hasn't even gotten double-digit points. And one other thing that you got to look at is DK Metcalf. Is that a fluke because of the Falcons' defense, or is he starting to get engaged with the offense? We don't really know that. A lot of good news, though, for your team. Khalil Herbert on your bench completely goes off. With Montgomery potentially being injured, he may slide directly into that RB2 spot for you and give you a major boost. Josh Jacobs also looked better. So there was positives going on. Another concern, Tom Brady. This guy and the Bucs offense have not gotten going. He will have Mike Evans back next week. Is that going to make a difference? We'll see. But Brady has been a shell of his former fantasy self. When you look at his numbers, they have been extremely underwhelming. But the big beat manifesto marches on, whatever the hell that is, and your team continues to be pretty competitive in this league, Brennan. I got to give you credit. I wasn't high on this roster as much coming out of the draft. I had you ranked down sort of in the middle to bottom range. Now you're kind of rising up towards that middle to upper tier of teams in this league. So good on you, my friend. Good on you. I like it. And we'll see where your journey takes you from here. We've got a matchup next week. It's going to be tough. I'm not anticipating an easy game. So may the best man win, Brennan. And with that all being said, we are going into the top 5 where shit gets super real. Coming in at number 5. Find out next. Moving into the top 5. At number 5, we have scoreless in Seattle, our biggest riser of the week. Chris, last week's power rankings, I challenged you. I said, prove me wrong. And what did you do? You fucking did it, my friend. I'm so excited that you were able to get this done this week. You absolutely laid a G down on his back and worked him over with a fantastic fantasy football performance. Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown, they were teammates in Baltimore. Now they're teammates on your fantasy team, and they're giving you big-time results. We finally see the Marquise Brown breakout game that we have been looking forward to for many weeks now. He, even though it didn't translate to success in the offense for Arizona, did make 14 receptions for 140 yards, very solid. And then Mark Andrews with a couple of touchdowns, fueling the Lamar Jackson MVP campaign. Scoreless in Seattle, that may still be true with a Seattle offense that still has its issues. But as far as your team, looking better every week. You even got away with playing an inactive player on your flex spot with Julio Jones. Otherwise, you would have been the highest scoring team of the entire week. But a lot of good things about your team. As soon as Johnny Taylor gets going, which I think we all know he's going to, yeah, you may be a force. Then again, you may end up bottoming out again like you did last week, and we're going to have to dip you down in the rankings again. You may be trying to do this thing where you hit every single spot in the ranking and just go back and forth. It's kind of a yo-yo team. You're kind of like a Ajit's team. You're kind of yo-yoing back and forth here, but you're on the right side of the yo at this one, Chris. Congratulations on the win. Congratulations on the big performance, and we'll see if you can carry it forward to next week. All of that stuff being said, moving on into the top 4. This is where it gets real. Number 4 coming right at you. Moving on to the number 4 spot in our fantasy football league power rankings. We have Kayla Church stood me up, Gabo McGregor. Gabo moving down a little bit. We had to make room for a couple more teams that were a little bit more impressive this week. Not really a slight on you per se, just as much as we had to elevate a couple of guys that did very well. So you come in at number 4, you drop one spot, but you're 3rd in the league in scoring, and you picked up another win this week against a hapless Sean Bates team. As far as Kayla, whoever this mystery person is standing you up, I wish I could say it surprised me, but judging how nervous you were to attend a party of a girl to which you were invited and then decided at the last second you didn't want to go inside after going up there, maybe time to get the confidence boost up there. Come on, you're flying planes all over the goddamn place. All you got to tell these chicks is that you're a pilot, and they're basically already very interested in that. Okay, Gabo, you got to lean into it, man. You're You're a handsome guy, right? What's the matter, man? Get your game going. But as far as your fantasy is concerned, you have been excellent this whole season. I'm going to have to wave the white flag on Nick Chubb. That was a mistake calling you out. That may turn out to be the best pick of the year. The Browns' offense has not struggled nearly as much as anybody anticipated, and Chubb has been the beneficiary of still one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in the entire National Football League. There's one area of concern. Obviously, it's the Broncos duo that you have. Wilson, a pathetic display on Sunday Night Football. People heaping praise on him. He basically didn't do shit. As the old saying goes, we let him off the hook, as Dennis Green would say. So Russell Wilson, bleh. Javonte Williams is going to kind of suffer as long as they're not scoring touchdowns, which they haven't been doing this year, so not great. But a lot of good things. You even got a nice little boost from Greg Dortch at your flex position. And Alexander Madison, if he starts playing regularly, that's a complete game changer for your team. You then basically have two elite running backs, which Javonte certainly has an elite ceiling if that Broncos offense can get itself off the ground. I'm really impressed, Gabo. You completely proved me wrong. It's not the first time you've made me look like an ass. It probably is not going to be the last either. So you can take your little victory lap. That's totally cool with me. You've earned it. Moving on. Now, we're in the top two time. Big time territory here. Who is number two? Who is number one? Find out next. Folks, it is top three time. Who is number three? Who's number two? Who's number one? It's time to be revealed. Number three, we have Gimme More. Boston Monroe, the algorithm. What happened? Let's take a look at how Boston Monroe / ESPN algorithm defied every conceivable fantasy football rule on their way to the top. And when I say top, I mean the fact that he is now the number one scoring team in our league. Who would have thought? Going from worst to, in a way, first in our league. Let's take a look. First pick takes an injury-prone running back with Christian McCaffrey. Second pick leaps up the board and takes a quarterback. And at this point, we're thinking, what's going on with the algorithm? Is Boston having a malfunction here? Has his brain and the ESPN algorithm fused together like Dr. Octopus with that weird chip he had in the back of his head to become an unstoppable menace? Has this happened? Is he completely off the rails? And then, just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, he goes all in on the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, and you're just thinking, oh my goodness, this guy has completely lost it. And then it all comes together for an explosive team. Christian McCaffrey has stayed healthy and scored pretty well. Josh Allen has been every bit as good, if not better, than we thought. And the Jacksonville Jaguars offense is looking more dangerous than frickin' sharks with laser beams attached to their heads. And now he is flooding our league with liquid hot magma. And we are all at his mercy. We're all at his mercy. The guy is blowing people away, scoring at will, just took an innocent Joseph Cunningham and broke him in half this week with a 116-point performance. Allen goes off. Clyde Edwards-Helaire somehow, against all the odds, manages, this is a great stat line, 7 carries for 0 yards, and he still puts up an effective fantasy football performance. I mean, he can't make this stuff up. Christian Kirk, what is his receiver ranking this year? Oh, right, that's number 6. He gets wide receiver 6 way down the list. And, of course, the biggest factor in his success this week is James Robinson rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling to a long touchdown run on 4th and 1. The second straight game that he's had a long touchdown run, looking like that Achilles is made of titanium now. Absolutely incredible. Boston, I was shitting all over your face in the first power rankings, and you have completely defied all expectations. Everyone was laughing at you. Now you are laughing back in the form of W's. So congratulations on your great season. We'll see if you can keep it going. The algorithm is strong, and your lineup setting for once this week was strong as well. All right, we're moving into the top 2 now. Who is number 2? Who is number 1? It's the moment you've all been waiting for, and it's coming up right now. Here we go, folks. Number 2 in the fantasy football power rankings. And we have, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson, Nate Solly, number 2 still. Now, here's what I will say. If you remember from the power rankings videos I did all those years ago, I have a long-standing power rankings policy. Okay? A long-standing policy that if the number 1 team wins, they get to stay at number 1 in the power rankings. It would have been easy to put you at number 1, especially with what we're going to talk about with some of the storylines with Nibs' team coming up. But as for your team, you steamrolled Jake Smith this week and put up the number 1 score of the week for this week. Your team looked absolutely incredible. You had a shit week 1, but ever since then you've posted back-to-back very elite performances. You are now number 4 in the league in scoring, but as far as the last 2 weeks go, you're actually number 1, I believe. So looking at why this is, obviously you go with Lamar Jackson. You got an absolute grand slam with Lamar. He has been out of this world, probably the MVP frontrunner for the entire National Football League this year, putting up insane numbers. He has 39 points this week, coming off of a week where he had 45. Off the charts football from Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry, signs of life. Even though it was against the Raiders, we still have to give Henry credit for bouncing back. Devontae Smith, what a great performance by him. You stuck with him. You believed in him in the last 2 weeks. He's paid complete dividends. This is the mark of a great fantasy owner. He doesn't overreact. He doesn't drop Devontae Smith after week 1, doesn't get any points. He also put Cam Akers back in the lineup, and he rewarded you with double-digit points from your flex spot. Overall, it's a great week. I wouldn't pay too much attention to A.J. Dillon not having a good week this week. Nobody ever runs on the Bucs defense. That's just something that you would expect. It comes with the territory. He will probably be bouncing back in the future. Aaron Jones didn't do anything either, so no reason to be completely alarmed there. And you get Mike Evans back next week. Everything's coming up aces for you. You are my number 1 roster coming out. You're certainly right up there with the best of the league so far, and we'll see if you can continue to have the kind of consistency that has made you 2-0 the last couple of weeks and got you on a little bit of a roll here. With that being said, it's time for the number 1 team. You all know who it is. Number 1 coming at you right now. Coming in at number 1 in the power rankings, we have, let me make sure I get this right, Jimmy G sucks, but Trey Lance is worse. You have obviously sacrificed creativity for spite. Hey, you wouldn't be the first and you won't be the last to make that decision. But as far as your fantasy football team goes, like I said, you have the right to remain at number 1 in spite of the fact that you had somewhat of a less than impressive performance this week. You were fortunate that Lester kind of let you off the hook there. I think there was some bad juju with his team name that led to you getting the win. Now, the curse of the number 1 team didn't come in the form of a bad loss, but it could be coming in the form of a DeAndre Swift injury. That's something to look at for you. But luckily, Breece Hall has picked himself up and actually done pretty well the last couple of weeks, catches passes. Kind of maybe overthought a little bit by benching CeeDee Lamb. He had a great week. You got to get him back in your lineup. Cooper Rush is not that bad. In fact, he's been pretty damn good if you look at it that way. So with Jimmy G sucks, Trey Lance is worse. You are the number 2 scorer in our league now after Boston's epic performance vaulted him into the top spot. But the roster still looks great. Drake London looks solid. I knew you were going to benefit massively from Pablo's insane fuck-up because you got Cortland Sutton when you shouldn't have gotten him, and he has absolutely been fantastic. The only bright spot in a Denver Broncos offense that has been looking miserable and putrid for all 3 weeks of the season. Jalen Hurts, still great. You got a nice little boost from Ayuk at your flex this week. Overall, your team is still looking great. You're still one of the best teams. You're 3-0. Not too much crazy stuff to be said. So with that, that is going to wrap up the power rankings. Interestingly enough, the top 2 guys in our league are these, mature guys with stable long-term relationships, one of them which is a marriage, one of which, who knows? Hint, hint, Nibs, better get on that, my friend. But we got a couple of mature, stable young men, the model citizens of our great American society, coming in at number 1 and 2 on the power rankings. And, Boston, he ain't too bad of a guy either. So we got to get our personal lives straightened out, and then we got to get our fantasy lives straightened out, gentlemen. It's time to get these guys knocked off. We got to put together some wins. If you're one of the guys on the bottom, including myself, we got to start clawing and getting after it. But that's going to do it for the power rankings. As always, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Sorry for no bonus content. We may be looking to do that next week, depending on how much time I've got. But the power rankings are going to be coming out no matter what. It's going to be a big priority to get these things out by Wednesday and not Thursday morning anymore. And just apologies for the production issues as well on the last power rankings. I'm not James Cameron yet. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on my editing and my speed and stuff with that and my production value. So with all that being said, I hope you all are doing well and looking forward to a great week 4 in the National Football League. With all that being said, time to wrap it up. See you guys later.